Welcome to Drovers TV. I'm John Hamilton.
And I'm Terry Apostle. Drovers TV is the latest offering from Drovers, America's beef business source.
Now, every 2 weeks, we'll bring you the latest cattle industry news and information.
Here's a look at what's coming up.
Jackie Moore from Joplin Regional Stockyards on marketing your cattle.
And Blake Angell on the importance of quality beef.
Jackie Moore is co-owner of Joplin Regional Stockyards in Missouri, the nation's largest cattle auction facility. So he knows a thing or two about marketing cattle. For years, Jackie and his staff have worked closely with producers. Today, he outlines some of the programs Joplin has that helps them get the best value for their cattle.
Well, we've had the commingling since back in the late 90s, where we commingle smaller producers' cattle together, you know, from 1 to 20 head, and we get them in larger groups. Everybody within the industry knows that a load of cattle will bring more than one at a time, so that we've tried to do that by commingling those cattle into uniform groups, so we can bring some extra value to some of those producers just to have 1, 2, or 3, or 20 or 30 head, just depending on their calves. Another thing that we've done, we had the value-added sales starting in 1997. We probably sold more cattle through our value-added programs than anybody else in the United States since that time in 97. We've had the sourced and age verification systems that we had in place that came along a little later after the mad cow was found there in 93. So, you know, we've had those value-added programs. We got our background and program that we started about 6 or 7 years ago, where we'll buy those cattle or those producers some calves or yearlings, and they can turn them out and graze them. We resell them through a video auction, you know, forward contract them, you might call that, where they can, you know, they know exactly what they're doing. It makes them easy to forget their loans. You know, if they can manage the middle of it, we can almost show them exactly how to make $50 or $100 a head on those cattle in a 3 to 6 month time. So it's been a big thing for us as the yards, and it's been a big thing for our producers to be able to take some cattle that they know they're going to make some money with.
In our last program, Cattle Facts Executive Vice President Randy Block spoke to Drovers TV about supply and demand trends in the beef industry. Today, we return to Randy's interview for his thoughts on opportunities for each industry segment this year.
When we look at it from cow-calf producers' perspective, you know, we're in a situation that we've downsized this industry significantly from an inventory standpoint. If producers know their cost and they're very competitive from a cost standpoint, I think now is a great time to be looking to expand those numbers, add some inventory back into their overall cow herd. I think those will pay dividends out here over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So I would sure encourage cow-calf producers to be studying their lessons in here. I think there's some very good opportunities. For those in the margin segment of the business, the backgrounders, the stockers, and the feeders, we just have to continue to focus on taking the profits when they're there. These markets are going to stay volatile. That's not going to change.
Today, Drovers' own Cliff Becker brings us a discussion with Dr. Denny Hallisman. Dr. Hallisman is a veterinarian with Alpharma Animal Health. Here he shares some ideas on anaplasmosis and the financial impact it can have in beef herds.
Anaplasmosis is a disease that is caused by an organism called Anaplasma marginale, and the disease is widespread across the U.S. It's been estimated that the cost to the producer of a clinical case of anaplasmosis is around $400, and the total cost to the industry in the U.S. is around $300 million per year. Young cattle, such as calves, typically will not show any clinical signs, but the older the cattle get, the more the severe signs will show up. A typical anaplasmosis infected animal will show signs of fever, anorexia, icterus, jaundice, some labored breathing. Many times it will resemble a case of bovine respiratory disease. And as I mentioned earlier, some cattle may abort. Older cattle may simply be found dead in the pasture. Most producers will begin to use aureomycin in the spring prior to the start of the vector season. And it's important to note that many cattle that die from anaplasmosis in the fall are actually exposed to the disease in the spring. So that's why I recommend that producers begin the administration of aureomycin through those supplements like minerals or blocks in the spring prior to the vector season, and continue that on through the fall beyond what would be considered the typical vector season.
John Madej caught up with Blake Angell, a cattle buyer with Meyer Natural Angus, to talk about demand trends. Blake says in spite of a down economy, consumers are still willing to pay premiums for high-quality beef products.
Meyer Natural Angus program actually was started in the mid-90s, and 2009 would have been the best year the company's ever had. The demand for the product, even as you think about the economic situations that we went through last year, actually the demand for the product stayed really strong. We saw some new customers come onto the market. And what we're doing with our product, obviously, with the natural program, is we're going back to the ranch, following those cattle all the way through the system. First, starting off with a genetic component, as you mentioned. We're working with Red Angus and Black Angus producers both, making sure those cattle are 50% Angus, and then following through with all the natural claims all the way to the program. To the packing plant. We actually saw, with the demand for our product and the growth the company saw, a need to expand our kill facility. So we're actually, previously had been using one packing plant partnership, and now actually have two in place.
Blake also has advice for producers who want to sell cattle to Meyer Natural Angus or other branded and especially natural beef programs.
One thing that I would make a recommendation to the cow-calf producer, and I know that when we talk to cow-calf producers, a lot of them don't feel like they have the ability or facilities maybe to do it, but weaning calves at the ranch from a natural program's perspective is really, really valuable. Our program is a never-ever type of a program, which means that if that calf is treated for anything one time in its life, it's going to be removed for the program. Those calves that are brought off the cow, weaned and put on a truck right away and shipped to the feed yard, those calves have the highest risk for fallout in our program, and subsequently the premium structure that's going to be available on those cattle is going to be limited because of that.
Our Drover to Drover segment brings you thoughts and ideas from your colleagues. On our last cast, Dallas Horton, DVM and president of Horton Cattle Companies, shared his thoughts on feed conversion, and we received some great ideas from you.
Warren Simons shared a great idea. Warren says, speaking of feed conversion, the fastest way to increase feed conversion of your calves is by crossbreeding. The second fastest way is by using a breed in that crossbreeding system that is known for feed efficiency. You can check out the rest of Warren's comments in the screen below this player. Thanks, Warren.
This week we hear from Jim Steinbeißer. Now, Jim operates a ranch and feedlot in eastern Montana with his brothers and cousins. The family uses Charolais bulls as terminal sires in their black baldy cow herd and finish their own calves in the feedlot.
He talks with Drovers TV about the value of age and source verification in the marketplace and how his family applies animal ID and performance data toward management decisions.
And we went all NHTC, which was for the European market, and those had to be hormone-free cattle. So we really we learned about process, that's for sure, last year. This year we're just age and source, and it's a little premium for their cattle. It certainly is cost effective.
I imagine that works well to collect some of your own information as the cattle move from the cow-calf stage on through the feed yard and to the packing plant.
That is one nice thing about finishing your own cattle, plus the cattle that we buy. We know what we're doing right and wrong, and allows us to hopefully move in the right direction. And also the folks' cattle that we buy, we know how good they're doing, and if we want to come back next year to buy those again. We certainly are finding out that it's important that our consumers know that we like our animals, we treat them well. It's in our best interest, and you just naturally do it when you like animal anyway. So, but we're realizing how important it is that the consumer know that we're doing that, and also there is some things that we found that we could have been doing better, and trying to change that, and instruct our employees also to do that.
You can read more about Jim's work with animal identification in an article titled "Keeping Options Open" in the February issue of Drovers Magazine.
Thanks for joining us today. We would love to hear your thoughts on Drovers TV. To reach us, just click on the Contact Us tab right above this player.
Or leave your comments right below this player. We'll be back in 2 weeks.
And we'll see you then.